Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake recently dropped, so you know what that means. We're going out of bounds to uncover Easter eggs, hidden secrets and all the weird and wonderful stuff the devs never meant for us to see. From a seemingly ordinary bus that turns out to be anything but, to strange structures buried beneath the map. We'll be diving deep into the hidden corners of the remake. We'll also be taking a look at some of the game's mechanics and sneaky dev tricks used behind the scenes to make it all work. Huge thank you to the developers for bringing these classic games back in style, and if you're into Out of Bounds content, there's a lot more waiting on the channel. Just like in the game, we'll be starting at the menu screen, and by removing the HUD and rotating the camera, we get a much clearer view. And check this out, on the wall that's usually barely visible is a full-on classic Neversoft logo, complete with the iconic skewered eyeball. It's a bit of a gut punch knowing Neversoft is no longer around, but I love that this little tribute is still tucked away in the remake, even if you can't see the whole thing. Stepping just outside the menu skate shop, things look pretty familiar. If you remember in my original THPS 3 video, there's a chunk of city map out here. One detail that really caught me off guard, if you zoom into this TV on the wall, and a whole bunch of other monitors across the game in fact, you'll see they're built like actual LED screens. I'm talking full RGB grid patterns, just like a real display. I don't know why this surprised me so much, maybe just the weird realisation that when you're using an LED screen, you're also looking at a tiny in-game rendered LED screen that's being rendered on your LED screen. I don't know, my brain kinda broke with this one. Before we move on to some Easter eggs, let's take a quick peek at the level select screen. If you saw my THPS 1 and 2 remake video with Odd Header, you might already have an idea of what's going on here, but if not, here's a super cool little developer trick. These scenes might look like they're pulled straight from the actual levels, but when we shift the camera around, you'll notice something interesting. None of this is actually 3D, what you're looking at is a pre-rendered panoramic image of the level, wrapped around the camera as a sky cube. It's a clever way to fake depth without loading the whole environment. Some of these get downright surreal once you start moving the camera. The illusion kind of melts away and it starts to look as if you're floating through a painting. Super clever and super weird once you see it from the outside. One of my favourites has to be on Pinball. From certain angles, Mr. Hawk himself ends up with this stretched, distorted face. Pure nightmare fuel. The first Easter egg we're checking out is hidden in a bin, but not the one you might be thinking of from the water park, though don't worry, I will briefly show that one too. This one's actually found on College, and you might have noticed it before, a pair of NPC legs and a plain looking skateboard sticking out of a trash bin. But if we take a closer look inside the bin, there's something you've possibly not seen, a second skateboard. I don't know why this is. At first I thought maybe it was done like this by utilising an existing trick that needed a skateboard to be there, but the closest I could find was this turtle backspin, so maybe not. It's got a proper deck design, unlike the ones sticking out. In fact, I don't recognise some of the details at all, like the Bones wheels and the trucks. They might be unlockable in the game, I'm not too sure, but they definitely caught my eye as something that I hadn't seen before. Now on to Water Park. This Easter egg was one of the first to be found and it was removed in a recent update, but as of recording the footage for this video, it was still there. It came across as a little dig towards Guitar Hero, rebranded here as Banjo Champion, and yes, it's found in the trash. Not entirely sure what the meaning behind this was, but considering it has now been removed, we can only guess it wasn't pleasant. But what really got me is in one of the arcade cabinets nearby. If you look closely on one of the screens, it looks like Iron Galaxy might have snuck in a little self-promotion. Well, I guess rad content creation is what we're here for after all. One of the objectives on Alcatraz is to release the prisoner. After collecting all the keys and making our way back to the cell block, you'll trigger this cutscene where the ghostly entity flies out through the door. What I wanted to know was if the ghost is already there, waiting behind the door, and it turns out, yes he is. But there's a tiny detail that's almost impossible to catch because the cutscene moves so fast. His prison number, 10232002. I think you could have a good guess at what this number is referencing. An Easter egg I haven't seen anyone else post about so far is on the movie set level. There's a bus sitting just out of bounds that looks fairly ordinary at first glance, but if you get a closer look at the number on the top, it reads 2525. This is no ordinary number, it's a reference to the movie Speed, where the bus 2525 famously can't slow down without exploding. A nice little nod, and fitting for a level themed around action films. Another easy to miss detail is the airport level is set on December 25th, 2022. Yes, Christmas Day, although you wouldn't know it from looking around. There's no decorations, not even a little tree in the corner, so either Christmas was cancelled at this airport or no one told the level designers. That said, considering how many real world flights were cancelled on Christmas Day due to weather in 2022, this might actually be a subtle nod to that chaos. Shame about the tree though. Suburbia has a few cool details and Easter eggs tucked away. Inside one of the trailers, there's a TV playing the 1968 classic Night of the Living Dead, a perfect fit for the level's Halloween theme. And just inside the closet, you can spot this odd figure, a skeleton with a teddy bear's head with a human skeleton hand stuck to the back of it. Oh, and if that wasn't strange enough, there's another one crawling out from underneath a different trailer. So yeah, there's definitely something strange going on in the neighbourhood. From one kind of a toy to, well, another. Hidden in a shipping container, fully inflated, ready for a hands-on inspection before export, if you know what I mean. It's probably no surprise that some official clothing and merchandise is scattered across the maps, but there's one item that I had to show just because it's such a tiny detail that it might otherwise go completely unnoticed. Inside the Nixon shop on Rio, you can spot this watch on display. At first, although I thought it looked pretty sublime, I then noticed the signature on the back of the strap. Turns out, this isn't just a randomly designed watch, it's a real watch designed by none other than Andy Anderson. You can actually spot the same watch on his Skater Model once unlocked, and yes, it's a real product, you can buy it in the Swatch store right now. I honestly love the design, and I might just grab one myself. In this part of the video, we're going to be taking a quick look at some game mechanics and behind the scenes tricks. The kind of stuff you might wonder about but can't normally see. For example, where do vehicles go once they move past the playable areas of the map? What happens to them after a cutscene ends? Take the aeroplanes flying around Rio or the train in Tokyo. If you follow them with free camera, you'll see that once they reach a certain point, usually just outside the player's view, they simply just stop. Sometimes they hide behind buildings or terrain that blocks them from sight. It's clearly intentional, but also pretty clever. Finding a spot to make something disappear without the player ever noticing isn't always easy, especially in big open levels like some of these. In Suburbia, I was genuinely delighted to see that the mansion door still has those glowing eyes, and yes, if you jump inside, you fall straight into the black void. I just wanted to highlight this because whilst a lot of things in gaming have evolved over the past 20 years, some developer tricks have stayed exactly the same. That void you fall into, it's just a completely blacked out box hidden underneath the map. The same technique they used all the way back in 2001. But if it works, why change it? Alright, I'm pretty sure most of you know about this one by now, though while we will be looking at the Easter egg itself, what's more interesting is where and how it's set up. Just beneath the sea on Skater Island, you can find the iconic reference to Bikini Bottom, and if you jump far enough out into the water, you can actually end up in Bikini Bottom itself. However, what I wanted to know is its actual location in relation to the main map. Turns out it's tucked away inside a hidden skydome just behind the playable area, completely out of sight during normal gameplay. And here's where it gets more interesting. I found a second unused skydome hidden nearby. This one features a stripped back version of the same scene, though no SpongeBob, no Bikini Bottom, just a simple sunken ship. This is also very similar to the movie set level. We're going down into this glowing open sewer hatch, leads you to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle hideout. Sure enough, right next to that, there's another version of this sewer. This time, completely stripped of any turtle branding. My guess, I'd say these are fallback versions kept in the game in case the licenses for SpongeBob or the Turtles expire or become unusable for any other reason. That way, the Easter eggs can stay, just without the copyrighted details. Whilst we're on the topic of game mechanics and development tricks, I just had to show you something about the windows and reflections in the game. Now, I know this might not sound too exciting, but please bear with me because there are actually quite a few different types even within the same levels, and some of them do hold a few nice surprises. For instance, the ones on the ice cream truck where we can't normally see inside, but when we do, we find an interior with some ice cream cones included. There are ones that look like they lead to full 3D rooms, but don't. Some are just completely flat textures. And then there are transparent ones, like this one in San Francisco. If you peek through, you'll see what looks like a tiny cinema on the inside. What you can't see, because there's no normal way to get in here, is this screen, showing a tank and the number 51. No clue if that's a reference to Area 51 or just a weird placeholder, but either way, it's definitely one of the stranger little hidden details, along with this UFO that can be spotted in the reflection of the large windows at the airport. Underneath the London map, a lone police NPC can be found quietly asserting his dominance, standing there waiting for his moment to shine. Will it ever come? Well, only if you're completing the task that involves knocking off the coppers' hats. He was clearly ready. If you have seen some of my previous videos, especially my original THPS3 one, you might already know how this trick works. A lot of the time, when it seems like you're riding on a moving vehicle, you're actually not. Take the level cruise ship for example. If we move the camera out to the edge of the viewable area and look closely at the ocean, keep an eye on the island in the background. You'll notice something interesting. The ship itself is completely still. It's the world around it that's doing all the moving. A really clever bit of level design trickery, and one we've seen many times before. Last but not least, we're taking a look at some Out of Bounds secrets and discoveries, including a few strange oddities and even more unused objects and geometry. First up, we're back on the very first level, Foundry. There's not a huge amount to find out of bounds here, but there is this corridor players would never normally see. It's common for level geometry to stretch just beyond what's visible to cover up any gaps or leaks. But what's weird is that there's a security camera tucked away back here too, and since that would have been a separate asset that's placed here, it makes you wonder why it's watching a hallway no one's meant to find. I've always loved exploring Out of Bounds ever since the early days of 3D games, and it still amazes me how much you can find outside the playable areas. Take Alcatraz for example. The actual skatable part of the map is tiny in comparison to the landscape beyond, and these days many levels are surrounded by highly detailed skydomes or skyboxes. Somebody out there may just recognise where this was taken. A few more bizarre things show up Out of Bounds too, like this taxi on Rio. Its textures are completely scrambled, even though there's a normal version parked just across the street. Or this movie set just outside the map in Los Angeles, where you'll find Iron Galaxy's own in-game currency casually lying around. But the real oddity? A knife block on the floor, with knives stabbed straight into the hood of the police car, and a teddy bear head nearby. What is going on here? It actually reminds me of a similar Easter egg in the THPS 1 and 2 remake. Also, I swear I saw an alien holding a knife somewhere in this game too, but I can't remember where. If you know, please drop a comment. Did you know the shark on Skater Island, the one that swims around the little lifeboat, actually loses its eyes and teeth when turning? They then realign in place once it straightens up. I'm not sure what's freakier, that or the backward swimming shark we found when exploring the original. Now here's an Easter egg I haven't seen anyone else post about on Shipyard, and I can totally understand why, because from inside the playable area you can only see a third of it. On the far side of the dock, one of the container ships has THPS Plus written on the side. It caught my eye, and after looking into it, I noticed only 3 of the ships in this level have the bridge section positioned in the centre. Coincidentally, those are the 3 dock closest to the edges of the map. From inside the level, this is about as close as you can get to ship number 1, but if we fly the camera over, more textures then begin to load. And on this one, it says THPS 3 along the hull. So I think you can probably guess what's on ship number 3. Yes, of course, it's THPS 4. So now that THPS Plus text finally makes sense. Now, nearing the end, let's visit the pinball level. Hidden underneath the map is where you'll find the giant eyeball that follows your skater around after locking into position. There's also a smaller pinball down here, which I assume is the main asset used for all the balls rolling across the stage. Further out in the void, I spotted some floating text, 5 degrees, and then further away, just the word flat. My guess, these were developer test markers, possibly to check how the pinball mechanics looked or behaved at different angles. Either way, they're just another interesting little find. Last but not least, we're on the zoo level, where hidden under the map is this strange chunk of geometry. Now, the only reason I recognised it is because I remembered exploring this level on THPS 4 original years ago, though I never ended up making a video about it. In the original, if you skated up to the hippo enclosure, you'd find a telescope, and if you looked down it for just a split second, you'd get a cheeky image of 2 hippos having fun. This out of bounds geometry is the entire backdrop for that scene, including the black circle that covers the camera lens, giving the illusion that you're peering through a telescope. Why it's all down here in the remake, along with the room from the monkey poop dodging minigame, is anyone's guess. Cut content, future plans, or just forgotten leftovers? Whatever they are great out of bounds secrets, but even after all these discoveries, something tells me this game still has a few more tricks up its sleeves, with more undiscovered surprises that are just waiting to be found.